Chenamari. Right, on the 21st of June 1923, after a 5-week federal trial, the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, was convicted of mail fraud and sentenced to 5 years in prison. The trial was clearly a travesty of justice. In fact, the U.S. government played a role in the false conviction of Marcus Garvey. There have been attempts to overturn this grave miscarriage over the years. Back in 1982, then Jamaican Prime Minister Edward Seaga unsuccessfully appealed to President Ronald Reagan when he visited Jamaica. U.S. politicians Charles Rangel and Mervyn DeMalley made a similar attempt 3 years later, equally without success. Any idea that the USA's first black president, Barack Obama, would depart from his obdurate predecessors and include Garvey in his 212 presidential pardons were left unfulfilled, sparking the of reggae artist Chronix, who excoriated the 44th president during his 2015 trip to Jamaica, posted a picture of Marcus Garvey and commenting, "This man still have a criminal record in the United States, and we're glorifying some waste man," and that waste man he was referring to is, of course, Obama. Yet the support for a pardon continued even from some surprising sources, including staunch Donald Trump ally Roger Stone, who referred to the prophet as one of my political heroes, and that a pardon for whom would send a signal about equality and justice. More recently, the emphasis has shifted from pardon to exoneration for the UNIA-ACL founder. In February 2021, New York politician Yvette D. Clarke introduced a resolution expressing Marcus Garvey should be recognized as a leader in the struggle for human rights, and that the president should take measures to exonerate him of the charges brought against him, adding that exoneration is a legal process that will clear him of wrongdoing. A pardon implies guilt. Earlier this year, the Justice for Garvey campaign was launched with the support of son Dr. Julius Garvey and other activists, with the aim of garnering 100,000 signatures to present to current President Joe Biden. Dr. Garvey remarked, "President Biden has an understanding of what we as a people have gone through. I think he owes something of his presidency to African Americans. It's time for this to be righted with someone whose only crime was to help his people." But the presidential route is not advocated by all. The Rehabilitating Committee of the UNIA-ACL, the UNIA-ACL RC 2020, in an act of self-determination that the founder would approve of, have declared our right as a people to unilaterally exonerate Marcus Mosiah Garvey on African Independence Day, the 31st of Mosiah. And UNIA-ACL RC 2020 President General, who is our guest this evening, Akili Nkrumah, said, "What we are claiming is the exoneration of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, because we understand the criminality of the system that convicted him. We want the U.S. to stand with the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and all of his works and deeds and declare him exonerated. We ask no government to exonerate him. We ask no president to exonerate him. We, the people of African descent, we, the people of Africa across the world, stand together to exonerate him. I care not what your particular philosophy is, if it may be different. If you profess and understand the reality of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey's contribution, if you profess to be a part of the universal African nationalism, then stand on the 31st African Independence Day, and we declare the exoneration of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The trial, we know, was a sham. We understand the type of political system we understand the type of political system America is. Okay. Brothers and sisters, we're going to leave it there for time because our guests are waiting.
100%.
Brothers and sisters, I'm going to hand over now to Brother Shakara, who's going to introduce our guests.
Tendam Warrior Kings and Queens. All right. We're here and in the building. First and foremost, I think it's fitting to begin by introducing the President General, who has been patiently waiting with us today. President General Akili Nkrumah is the Honorable President General of the UNIA-ACL Rehabilitating Committee 2020. He was previously the first Assistant President General of the UNIA-ACL. He is also Co Chair of the Nkrumah Brotherhood. Baba Akili was also previously director of the Marcus Garvey Shule for 25 years. Long time them man ya debout. Give thanks and welcome. Greetings to President General Akili Nkrumah.
Greetings. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives. Mosiah lives. Yes, it's beautiful to hear your voice, PG, and it's beautiful to have you with us. I believe for the first time on Africa Speaks of Alkeb-Lan. Is that the case?
I think I was on with Brother Mbandaka.
Okay.
Once before.
Yes.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Garvey time. That sounds
Garvey
like Garvey time.
Garvey time.
As they say, Baba, no rest for the righteous. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So we give thanks.
The work has to get done, so you got to do what you got to do.
100%. And we're going to go on now to introducing our Mama Chenzira Kaina, a grandmother, minister and priestess of Ark M. Sematawi Ministries International. She is UNIA-ACL RC 2020 High Commissioner General of the Caribbean and Central America. Dr. Kaina serves as an integral naturopathic health practitioner, professor, lecturer, and holistic studies researcher with clinical and international experiences in natural healthcare and counseling services, allopathic support, rural and women's health, psychotherapy, cognitive therapeutics, heuristic education, and more. Dr. Chen is also director of Virgin Islands and the Caribbean Cultural Center. She also has the distinction of sharing a name with my son, and so we give thanks for that energy as well. Greetings, Mama Chenzira.
Hotep family.
Yes, I.
Hotep.
Garvey in the house. Mosiah mine.
That's right. Garvey lives.
I'm not gonna lie, Kings and Queens. I feel good whenever Mama Chenzira is around. So we give thanks for the presence of Mama Chenzira.
Powerful vibes.
You know what I'm saying? You know,
so bring the fire.
That's right.
Bring the fire.
She's. I feel like I'm gonna bestow the honor on her as our present day Mama Henrietta Vinton Davis.
All right.
I'm gonna put that honor into the universe, knowing that it's well placed. You know what I'm saying? So we give thanks.
Give thanks.
And last but by no means least, Kings and Queens, the spiritual leader of the Alkeb-Lan Revivalist Movement, Brother Leader Mbandaka, who also serves as the High Commissioner of the UNIA-ACL RC 2020 for the UK. Resident guest, Brother Leader, spiritual leader, Brother Leader Mbandaka, an Afrikan-Centred Education Consultant. Brother Leader is a veteran activist for almost 40 years standing and a featured columnist in the Whirlwind newspaper, as well as author of Mosiah Daily Affirmations and Education, an African-Centred Approach to Excellence. And as has already been said, the call for the month of Mosiah was first declared by Brother Leader Mbandaka in the year 1997. And as the Alkeb-Lan Revivalist Movement, we take the words of our spiritual leader seriously. And so it was actioned in the year 1998, Kings and Queens. All right, so we give thanks. We give thanks for all that energy right there. Tendai Mwari, Brother Leader Mbandaka.
Tendai Mwari.
Wow.
Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives. All right.
Say again, Rumbidzo Kunamwari, Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. To the God of Africa be the glory for Mosiah month. 31 days of celebration and observance of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Rumbidzo Kunamwari, Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory for the President General, Brother Akili. Give thanks and praises for your presence, and of course for our sister Chenzira. May I quickly also give thanks and praises for the Uhuru movement, Chairman Omali Yeshatela, and also our own brothers and sisters of the movement here in the UK. And just to extend, give thanks to Brother Luezi for addressing us this evening, and to extend the solidarity, strength and blessings of the Alkeb-Lan Revivalist Movement to the Uhuru movement in this very challenging time. We will continue to support and use this channel to spread the word and to rally support behind our brothers and sisters of the Uhuru movement. Tendai Mwari.
Brother Shakara, just before you continue, we kind of curtailed our summary there, but I just want to say, for the sake of our listeners, brothers and sisters, we asked the question, why should we exonerate Marcus Garvey? Why should we exonerate Marcus Garvey? In what ways was Marcus Garvey's trial a travesty of justice? Why have successive presidents failed to pardon him? What impact would a presidential pardon / exoneration have? Has too much time passed for it to make any difference? Those are the questions for you, brothers and sisters. You may have many others. When the lines are open, brothers and sisters, you can do so on 020-3289-6504. But for the moment, brothers and sisters, we're going to connect with Brother Shakara and all the amazing guests that we have this evening in the spirit of Mosiah. Tendai
Mwari. Right, I believe it's fitting to begin with President General and explore the first question. Now many people may very well be aware of the fact that the trial was a travesty of justice, but the details of the trial may be unknown to many. And so if you could give our listeners, Baba, a brief overview of exactly what. I know that's a difficult task, but I'm going to ask you to do it briefly for the sake of time, and we will have time to go into more detail.
Right now, I will be brief only because I won't have as much time. So I will actually ask Dr. Tenzera to continue on for me. But let me give brief. The trial in America says you first should have a jury of your peers. 12 white men is not a jury of his peers.
Yes, sir.
That's number one. Number two, his counsel general at that time was working for the FBI.
Yes, sir.
Let's put that in there too. Two, we know the American government as well as the British government did not want Marcus Mosiah Garvey to accomplish any of the tasks that he moved forward. So in trying him, with the only evidence being the testimony of one person out of 25,000 that would be willing to take money to testify against Garvey and an empty envelope, it's a shame. We know categorically that black men as well as black women have been railroaded in this country as well as in England for no reason at all. So we know this. So when you put no jury, you put a spy in his counsel, you look at the fact that more black people got employed by the FBI because of Marcus Garvey than anyone else, then you recognize that the judge himself was also anti-Garvey, anti-black. There was no way that could have been a fair trial. And then the only proof you have is the testimony that you paid for and an envelope that was empty.
All right, Baba. Just clarify for us. How long do you actually have? Just let me know.
I have now about 20 minutes.
Okay, no problem. We'll get the most out of you in that time, Baba. Don't worry about it. All right. What's it called? All right. So in respect, in fact, briefly, I just want to check if Mama Chenzida and Brother Leader have anything to add to that explanation in terms of why the trial was a travesty in the first place.
If I may, there's so much research that exists that has definitely been uncovered over the last score of 20 years that it would be really imperative for persons to recognize, like some of the key pieces that I'll share actually were shared coming out of research out of the University of the West Indies very recently through the P.J. Patterson Research Center. And again, it's like there was prosecutorial misconduct. I want persons to get that. The judge should have recused himself. There's just certain things that, according to the quote unquote tenets of law, even in the US, there were things that were violated. The whole context in which the Honorable His Right Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey was even investigated, if you want to call it that, was similar to just an outright lynching. It's just that they knew that to physically lynch him, which was their common protocol during those times, that would have created like a serious next level of warfare. So the intention was to just discredit him in terms of his reputation, etc. So just, again, I want to highlight that big words, prosecutorial misconduct. I think persons need to understand that at the very core, the United States government and their legalese violated their own code of conduct, their own code of ethics in attacking the Honorable Right Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Okay, give thanks, Mama. Brother Leader, anything to add?
Tenamwari. Yeah, first of all, I endorse what my beloved brother and sister have said in its entirety. But even before we come to the trial, before we come to the falsification of the whole process of the prosecution, the very arrest of Papa Garvey was based on a fabrication. Right. So the fabrication began even before the trial. And many of the parties who were involved in the process were involved in the campaign to discredit Papa Garvey. And it's a campaign that was a sustained campaign for a number of years. So that is the starting point. And I also feel it's important to emphasize that the criminal justice system and the court system are agencies of the state. Yes, sir. So what we're talking about is the machinery of the state that was unleashed against the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, which includes every aspect of the state from the presidency right on down to every element of the state that was involved. Yes, sir.
Tenamwari. It's worth noting that a number of other brothers and sisters were actually put on trial alongside Papa Garvey, and all were acquitted, of any misconduct in relation to the Black Star Line. And Papa Garvey, and of 13 counts, of potential fraud, they were able to find Papa Garvey guilty, quote unquote, of one count, and that one count was based upon an empty envelope that was said to have been sent to a quote unquote disgruntled shareholder in the Black Star Line, and that is what they used to convict Papa Garvey. And there's more misconduct where that is concerned, in terms of what constituted mail fraud at the time, and whether, as Mama Chenzira has said, according to their own law, they acted with due diligence. Another fact actually is that the judge in the case was a known member of the NAACP, which was an organization that was known to have hostility towards the UNIA-ACL in general and Papa Garvey in particular. All right, so all of these things need to be taken into consideration. Judge Mack is his name, you know what I'm saying? And there's more that could be said on that. But Baba Akili,
yes, sir.
With your short time that you have with us today, just because this campaign has existed for as long as the sentence, or the conviction of Papa Garvey has existed, and so the question would need to be asked: why, in the year 2022, have we finally come to the realization, as universal African nationalists, that it is our duty to exonerate our leader, teacher, and guide, our prophet, regardless of what the machinations and the institutions of Western imperialism have to say about it?
I think that this won't be brief, but part of the answer to that question, to direct the answer to that question, is because we were conscious. And because we understood, and as we were rising and growing, we put a focus on trying to do other things.
Right.
And we put a focus on trying to take up your mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. We took building the government as the tool, and understanding that was part of Garvey's mission. But we needed to stop for a moment, and we did, to say, wait a minute. We raised Marcus Garvey to the heights that he earned.
Right.
But we as a people have to clear his name.
Right.
And then with all of what you read earlier in the attempts to get other people to do it,
right,
we didn't stop to realize that they won't do it. And even if they do it, they would attempt to do it probably by saying, we'll give him a pardon. I don't want a pardon. Garvey committed no crime other than the crime of raising African people to a conscious level all over the world. It were places that he didn't go himself, but when they read and heard the philosophies and the aspirations and the things that he was attempting to accomplish, they gravitated toward that, and that scared the white man, period. And that fear is what they used to convict him, and then to try to tarnish his name, and then try to tarnish the UNIA itself, trying to tarnish the aspirations of a people to want to build their own government. So in order for us to teach our folks in this age, here is the truth. We have to exonerate Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Mosiah Month, Garvey's birthday, the UNIA-ACL, everything is connected to that image. So now we have to take the responsibility. Again, you can disagree with me on a number of things, but if you're a Garveyite, if you say, I believe in what Marcus Mosiah Garvey stood for, if you say, I believe we should have an African nation, then it's time for you to stand up.
Right.
I'm not groveling on my knee. In fact, I can't get on my knees anyway.
You and me both, Baba. You and me both.
More yoga, Baba. More yoga. Sabatawi, you know.
See, but it's time. We've waited long enough.
Yeah.
We declared the UNIA-ACL RC 2020 as a government.
Yes, sir.
We've waited long enough to declare our founding President General, the first and only provisional president of the continent of Africa, determined and deemed so by convention in 1920, to blemish with this stench that white people put on him for no reason other than him trying to raise us up.
Yes, Baba. Yes,
so it took us a minute to get here.
Yes, Baba. No, 100%. We're going to get into some other issues with Baba, Brother Leader and Mama Chenzira shortly. But because you are the PG, I believe it will be in order for you to give us our marching orders, Baba, in relation to what exactly are we doing on the 31st of Mosiah, and in terms of exonerating Garvey as a people.
Here's what we need to do. And that's why I say everybody needs to stand with August 31st, African Independence Day. Wherever you are, whatever celebration you have, know that on that day, August 31st, I'm going to travel to Washington, D.C., to our embassy in D.C.
Right.
And I'm going to sign the exoneration papers of Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
we're going to hold it up to the world and say he was wrongfully convicted.
Right.
He was wrongfully imprisoned. And we, the people of Afrikan-Centred, the people of the UNIA-ACL RC 2020, and again, any Garveyite. So all over the world on August 31st, stop. Get on social media, get on another platform and say, we exonerate Garvey. And they will hear it because we will speak it into existence. And then we will change every history book this man has ever printed, because we will have said no more. Do we bow to you and ask you and grovel to you and request of you? We are standing up and telling you We Exonerate Garvey. So all over this platform.
Yes, sir.
Every platform you have. That's the route we have to take.
All right, but because you are the President General as well, I'm gonna ask you the difficult questions as well. Yeah. Now, I'm very aware of the fact that there's a lot of anti-Garvey talk at the moment. Yeah, sure. Out there in the world, and so I have been challenged on this particular point recently. And one of the things that people are saying, and it will be said when the profile of We Exonerate Garvey heightens, is that the UNIA was engaged in witness badgering, or potential witness badgering, and among other crimes associated with, harassing people that were going to testify against Papa Garvey. What do we say to that charge, President General?
What do we say to an aggressive defense? Mm-hmm. Because it was an aggressive defense of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
People wanted to say there was badgering. No, out of 25,000 people that they tried to do and steal the records of, only 15 people.
Yes.
Were not in accord with the actions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yes.
So they want to make it sound like there was a widespread battering of people of African descent to say, "Oh, you can't go against Garvey, you can't do that." No, you see, that's not even principle. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that there was that many folks at that point that was going against him from the door. Other than that, the witness list would have been a hell of a lot longer than one single person.
Yes.
And if we're gonna badger folks, then that one single person would have to consider whether or not the money that he was offered was going to take place from the badgering that he was getting. And since he took the money anyway, I'd venture to say that we didn't do as much badgering as people would like to say. Was there pressure?
Yes, sir.
I won't argue that.
Yes, sir.
Was there wholesale discussions? I won't argue that.
Yes, sir.
But realizing that the might of the UNIA in its existence under Garvey's time had not moved to the point of where it moved later on after Garvey's time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, we give thanks for that. They're even charging us with murder, Barbara Akili. Yeah, they're even charging us with murder. I mean, and I'm being serious. There are murder accusations. No evidence of it, in fact.
I know the accusations of murder because I know they try to establish the fact that there were certain people that Garvey could use to go out and do hit jobs. But that too is something that history doesn't substantiate. But even so, when you are raising a people from lynchings, burnings, from being ripped out of your own home, being not allowed to walk on a pavement next to a white person. You take those crimes and those acts against us and equate them to whatever acts you choose, I choose those acts.
100%. 100%. I absolutely agree. So, Baba, how should the people tune in and support the action on the 31st of Mosiah? And what should we be doing to tune in between now and then?
Between now and then, I'm going to give you the promoting We Exonerate Garvey. And hashtag. We have hashtag We Exonerate Garvey, and Dr. Chinzara will probably, I'm sure, be able to give you more on how we're going to broadcast it, because that's really not my area.
Yes, sir.
But we were going to be Facebook Live. We're going to live stream it. We're going to do any and everything else that we can to make sure that you're able to see the signing. But what I'm asking folks to do is push the hashtag, join the movement.
Right.
No movement is perfect. And the threats that the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey faced, no different than the threats my brother leader Mbandaka faced as he moved there. And doesn't think that the white folks ain't going to put garbage on you. They're going to try. We kind of clean the garbage up.
Yes.
So if the errors that we've made, we're going to face them too.
Yes, sir.
See, so when folks say, "Oh, you did this," we face those.
Yes, sir.
We'll take them on and can make the proper correction.
Yes, sir.
Because Governments have to be structured on an African frame of reference, in an African mindset, not in a European mindset. Not trying to reduplicate what the European did, but I want to reduplicate what our ancient ancestors did from Ma'at to the future. I do have to go, family. I do.
No problems, Baba. We understand, and once again, apologies for the technicals that it made us start late.
Oh no, we'll do this again. It's just
exactly. But we are honored for your presence, and you know what, Baba? I should as you're here, raise the name of our ancestor, President General Thomas Harvey. Who I know that you are very much connected to, but who was a student, graduate of the course of African philosophy under Papa Garvey himself, and it's necessary to let people know that you are a graduate of the course of African philosophy under Baba Thomas W. Harvey. So you are literally one step removed, in that sense from the Prophet himself in relation to the course of African philosophy. And so we want to hail up all of our President Generals from that time until now, and emphasize the fact that there is an unbroken line of leadership, albeit somewhat in some instances and dispensations of times fragmented, but unbroken nonetheless.
Fragmented,
you know what I'm saying?
But not unbroken.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? So we give thanks for your presence, Baba, and no doubt we'll connect with you again prior to the 31st of Mosiah, and we'll be in tune on the 31st of Mosiah itself. Have a good day, Baba.
My beloved brother, please convey. It's great to have you on the program. Good to see you again. Please convey our love and best wishes and regards to our beloved brother Baba Sengo Baye.
Will do, sir.
Yes.
Absolutely, and may the Creator and the ancestors continue to empower you, my brother, in your works. Tendai Mwari.
100%. Tendai Mwari. Give thanks, Baba.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
All right, Mama Chenzira. Our President General has said that you're orchestrating a lot of the maneuvers around the We Exonerate Garvey situation. So just add to anything that our President General may have not said, in terms of how our people need to be involved, what is the procedure, what is the order, and where do we need to connect?
One of the things that was really highlighted in all of our recent gatherings within the UNIA-ACL RC 2020 is the fact that this We Exonerate Garvey, this joined the movement, is, as you said, it's not new. This has been going on in different iterations for decades, for scores, for all of our lifetimes. Persons were saying that he should have been exonerated in the 1920s. This is just, and it came across in different means. And it came across, and I'd like to highlight that while we're speaking in English, which is not everyone's first language, it was being done in other languages and other parts of the earth. Whether it was in peculiar places that people wouldn't expect this to take place, within the continent, within different parts of Central and South America, within parts of what we now call Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, etc. There were African persons that recognized that the Right Honorable His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey was really in a kangaroo court, literally. Not like literally. And so there were these efforts, and many of those persons that spoke in support of him were also ostracized, were also externally in a variety of ways attacked. I think it's very critical also that persons recognize this is not just while it may be initiated while this particular iteration is initiated through the UNIA-ACL RC 2020, this is not particular to just this government. This is all the people on the earth, all them people wearing the Garvey shirt, all them people wearing anks and thing and putting up Black Power, all them Black Panthers, I calling all of them.
Everybody.
All African People's Revolutionary Party, All African Women's Revolutionary Union, the All African People's Socialist Party, all these global African movements, all these Pan-Africanists, all these African fundamentalists, global Africanists, reparationists, repatriationists, whatever you're dealing with, everybody. All of us have to come together on this one. We might have our differences in style and format and strategy and tactic and so on. However, principally, it is our duty and responsibility to restore truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, righteousness. I'm going to say it again. Divine righteousness and harmony. Ma'at, whatever word you want to use, Ubuntu, all of that there. All of that has to come for us to navigate very clearly, very focused in all of our media networks. If you are an ear-to-mouth person, and notice I said ear-to-mouth first, because some people going to hear it and not necessarily utter.
Yes.
But they're going to take that message. This should be like beyond Black Lives Matter. This should be beyond all of these movements that everybody wants to bring in, intersexuality, intersectionality. It's beyond all of that there. Because by doing this posthumously, we're navigating another layer, because there's so many brothers and sisters that will be exonerated just by this one action, because we go into a source of what happened in the 20th century and bring it into the 21st century. All of this, the Africa we want, I speak into the African Union, all of them there, the African Union, the Commission, the ECOSOC, the 6th Region Diaspora Caucus, all of that there. Today, here is emancipation for many of us in the Caribbean, particularly in the Anglophone Caribbean. I want to make sure people get that. When we say Eastern, we kind of forget that there's still people here that speak in Dutch and Papiamento and Creole and French and Spanish, you understand? And Portuguese. We need to remember, and there's a number of layers to emancipation. Yesterday, though, was the 60th anniversary of the formation of the Pan-African Women's Organization. The reason we can even talk about the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey to this day is because of them women that was in that party, that was in that government, that was taking that time like we tend to do. We're going to document what we hear our brothers and sisters say. We're going to write that report. We're going to do that research. And not to say our brothers are not complimentary. I'm just highlighting that it was a shared balance between our queens and our kings. So when I say Queen Mother, I always say King Father too.
That's right.
You understand?
That's right.
And it's really critical that persons recognize that when we're speaking of we exonerate Garvey. That it has to come from us first. We can't ask Mosiah to do forgiveness and nothing first. It has to come from us. Don't they say that the basis of change is internal?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mama.
And the conditions of change are external?
Yes, Mama.
That comes from us.
Yes, Mama.
That comes from our very African, ancestral, ancient tradition. And that's why this movement, this reminder of we exonerate Garvey, it goes to all the UNIAs, and I'm saying it again, and that's all the UNIA-ACL. If you say you UNIA-ACL, whether it's 1929, Ohio Group, RC 2020, and I've heard some others, New York, Allen, everybody, you know, and if you don't really like the flavor and tone in which it comes through RC 2020, then do something now. Just do take action. I will support
that. Right.
And that's what we're saying. That's I know that's what PG Akili. And sometimes he forgets to add that middle name, Malik. So people need to recognize, that whole energy of moving royal and being unapologetic. That's what, I had mentioned it earlier when the UE in Mona campus was hosting, well, I shouldn't just say the Mona campus, but it was through the UE system. They hosted a series of events around the exoneration of Garvey. And granted, the whole intention at that time, also spearheaded through his beloved son, Dr. Julius Garvey, really pushing and highlighting, we are going to have this letter. It's going to be signed as a petition with over 100,000 signatures, and we're going to give it to the president of the U.S. That's good. I'm not questioning people and how they do their action, but me ain't studying what America president, none of them want to do. Because they didn't do nothing when they were supposed to do something. Period. Done. And I don't knock on the people that love Obama. Don't get me wrong. You love Obama, keep it there. He ain't do nothing either. And he was asked. And he was in a position where it was, it was very much so happening in the communities around the globe. People was asking him to do this from Kenya, from which part his father from. I try to say it very, very calmly, without any. But I hope people hear the roar. I hope they're hearing the lioness roar. 100%. It's like it may sound like a purr, but I just need them to catch that we're not asking permission. We're not asking any kind of permission to exonerate our most right honorable His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, ever. So maybe it did take to 2022.
Yes,
and maybe it needed to happen now.
Yes.
Because of many of the other things that are happening in the globe.
Yes.
And maybe this is a time that we can use to springboard. When we talk about all this African, I'm hearing all kind of groups saying they represent the African diaspora, and they're not coming to the African diaspora to ask nothing, and they just saying they represent the African diaspora.
Mama, on that
So
point,
I say,
sorry, so no, yeah, no, it's all good. You know what, Mama, it's all good. Yeah, in the course of African philosophy, the Prophet teaches about diplomacy, and so we must engage diplomacy when necessary. But the fire is always there, so we understand that.
Absolutely.
But I want to bring it to present day very quickly, and then I'm going to ask Brother Leader a question on the present day matter as well. And it's the fact that we're living in a time in the last year or two, about 3 political prisoners in America, members specifically of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army have been released from prison. They've been in there for 30-40 years. Sundiata Acoli was released, who was involved in the same incident that for which Mama Assata Shakur was imprisoned, is said to be coming home now. Brother Sekou Odinga, who was also a part of breaking her out of prison, was released last year or the year before that. And another elder, Jalil Mutakeen, who was a member of the Black Liberation Army, was released. Baba Matulu Shakur is still in prison, suffering from stage 3 cancer. And it has been eligible for parole since 2016, and they refuse to release him. And so if you could just connect Papa Garvey and his exoneration with the current reality of political prisoners as it relates to African people, not just in the United States of America. I'm only mentioning those names because they're some of the most high profile, but we still have political prisoners in Azania, South Africa, for example. Still to this day, we've still got political prisoners in South Africa. So if you could just connect the significance of exonerating Papa Garvey to the issue of political prisoners in general as it relates to African liberation.
African liberation will not be realized if we continue to allow these terrorists, these capitalist, imperialist terrorists, to hold our innocents, to hold our freedom fighters in their illegal, more correctly, unlawful, and institutions of incarceration. Boom. So we can do all of this African liberation, upliftment, social justice discussion. We could protest and march till hell freeze. However, until we establish those policies that are connected to actions that provide us with the sovereign power to just pluck them out and to get them out, no one should be in, because of a political prisonership jargon trash, be in for, like, again, 40 years plus. Some of these persons, it was very clear that they should have been paroled more than 30 years ago. And what they have done is to dismantle their ability to have their high side of their life and their engagement in our revolutionary efforts now. So of course it's tied to Garvey, because that's exactly what was done in the 1920s. Was, we have this wonderful fervor, millions of Africans coming together, unification, Africa for the Africans, home and abroad, all of this movement throughout the globe. And what did they do? They plucked him out. And then even when he was released, so-called, after because they knew what they were doing. The intention was to dismember him, to detach him from the movement that he created, and create all of these internal strifes that have manifested to this day. It's the exact same thing in these movements, because we've seen it in the Black Panther Party. We've seen it in other Pan-African, African global progressive movements. We have to stop this. And the way that we stop this may not be shared on this network today, but those that know and can read between the lines, it has come to an end.
Give
and
facts,
that's why we give thanks for that. Powerful question.
Give facts. It's necessary that we make it relevant to today, because obviously this was 20 years ago, 100 years ago now, and we have to show the historical continuum, in terms of how the state moves against our leaders. And on that point, brother leader Mbandaka, hailing from the island of Jamaica, Yeah, there's a major contradiction, yeah, in this dynamic, brother leader, because we are demanding and we are exonerating Papa Garvey in relation to the United States of America, but Papa Garvey is still a criminal on the books of the nation of his birth, in which he is a national hero, the first national hero, no less. And as yet, yeah, the Jamaican government is yet to have exonerated Papa Garvey in relation to what he was convicted and imprisoned for in Jamaica. Papa Garvey is a criminal, yeah, in Jamaica, right? You know, I want to know that, yeah. And so, I don't know, brother leader. I mean, what do you make of that particular contradiction right there, and how should we go about addressing that in the name of We Exonerate Garvey?
Tendai Mwari. Well, it indeed represents the sick state of our people as a result of the Ma'afa, the impact, the lasting and enduring impact of the Ma'afa on not only the minds of our people, but the very political systems that we establish that is supposed to preside in terms of governance over us. And so we realize that the system is not fit for purpose. You've highlighted well the enormous paradox, the contradiction of Papa Garvey rightly being the first national hero of Jamaica, and yet a fabricated conviction remains on the statute books as far as Papa Garvey is concerned. But if the contradiction doesn't stop there, you know. The contradiction is also to be found in the fact that the present political system in Jamaica was established as an attack on the impact of the Garvey movement on the people of Jamaica and how that was mobilizing the people of Jamaica to overthrow the colonial system and to establish true sovereignty for themselves. The very political systems and the political parties that we see in Jamaica today were instruments that were used to attack and seek to destroy the Garvey movement. And so, you know, there are many layers to the contradictions. There are many layers to the paradox that we see in Jamaica today. And then we have to understand that, and even in the American context, that although exoneration is necessary and it has its place, it might imply some legitimacy to the process. And so the Jamaican government ought to be able to say that really this conviction had nothing to do with us because we are an independent government. That was the colonial administration. And so we will exercise the power to repudiate the conviction and repudiate the entire process that resulted in the conviction, starting from the arrest, the charges, the prosecution, everything. We repudiate the process, the entire process. And so the emphasis is not even on Papa Garvey. There is no question that Papa Garvey had committed any crime. We know that it was fabricated. We know it was political. And this was the state using its power, using its machinery, unleashing its machinery on an individual who the state had under surveillance, both in the American context and in the Jamaican context. They had infiltrators among him, looking for him to make or creating conditions for him to make a mistake that they could use to criminalize him. And yet they could find nothing. So they had to fabricate something. Because this is the most honest human being you could ever want to know about. You could ever want to meet, I dare say. You couldn't find a more honest human being, one of greater integrity than the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who built a movement where millions of African people around the world joined this movement, a movement that turned over millions of dollars at a time when African people were experiencing the worst of conditions. And yet this man, no one can show you a bank account. No one can show any evidence of him ciphering off any wealth. No one can show you properties, any wealth that he had amassed for himself. No one can show you that, because everything. That's what I was attempting to say. Yeah. I mean, the volume of, you take the ship, the first ship that was purchased for $165,000. What is that worth in today? That's like millions in the context of 1919. Yes? And as Papa Garvey says, every penny that comes into the organization was to be used for the use the Negro, the word Negro, but for the African people, capital N, for the African people of the world. A more honest man you would never find, you will never hear about or read about. So there's no question about him having committed any crime, and worst of all, a crime against his own people. A crime against his own people. But I do commend, I must say, I commend this movement and this thrust for the exoneration, the acquittal of Papa Garvey, because in itself it represents the power to define, taking back the power to define, taking back the power to determine, and that's very, very important. And the potential of rallying African people around the world behind this cause is tremendous in its potential. And so I fully embrace and endorse that. I think at another level, we need to look at the whole concept of repudiation at another level, because we need to repudiate the whole thing. The emphasis should be on the process and the system, and not on Papa Garvey and whether Papa Garvey was guilty or not. We know he's not guilty, and when we say exonerate, we know we're saying he was not guilty, but it might imply some legitimacy to the process, even though that's not the intent.
No, and it is a process, brother leader. As we read from the President General a while ago, him no business about the American government. We don't say that already, you know what I'm saying? But the point is well taken, that we should direct.
Yeah. Sorry, you froze. Brother Shakara, you froze. You froze.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. I was saying that the President General. No, that's fine, yeah. The President General did say in his statement earlier, as we read earlier, that he doesn't care about the American government, yeah, and its judicial system. But the point within that point about not caring about their edicts, the repudiation of that system is necessary, is a necessary part of the process, yeah, in terms of reclaiming back the narrative and stating and affirming our own power to define reality in that context. So much appreciated for that, and we're gonna have to look at how we can operationalize that in a similar campaign, and I'm sure Mama Chenzida would agree with that in many respects. So we give thanks for that. Don't know why. We're going to open up the line shortly, Kings and Queens. So do stay tuned. Do stay tuned for that. I want to ask you one more question, brother leader, in relation to I like to ask the difficult questions here. How relevant is this now? Yeah, in the sense of Pan-Africanism and Garveyism in particular, right? What is this an exercise in vain symbolism? Yeah. Given the fact that, you know, the name Marcus Garvey, is not the world-renowned, resounding name that it was in the 1920s. And so you personality worshippers, all right, to play advocate for a second, are simply engaging in your personality worship and you know, trying to, you know what I'm saying, forward agendas of vain symbolism rather than addressing the real conditions, of African peoples in today's world. And because of that, you know, Garveyism is not as effective as it was 100 years ago. And so instead of doing this, you know, should be, you know, dealing with some food, clothing and shelter and some bread and butter. Is there a dichotomy between these things, brother leader? And I'm going to pose the same question to Mama Chenzilla after you've concluded.
I say emphatically and indubitably no. It is not a dichotomy. There's not a dichotomy there. The two are not mutually exclusive. One is the issue of Papa Garvey and repudiating the criminalization of Papa Garvey and all that entails is a matter of principle and a matter of duty.
Yes, sir.
This is a man who lived his life and gave his life for all of us. Every moment of his life since he came into consciousness was spent thinking, working, striving, struggling, fighting for the liberation of his people. You know, when he asked Mama, when he was arrested wrongfully and unjustly arrested and about to be or I think he was actually in prison, and he asked Mama Amy Jacques Garvey to pull together his works and to put his works in print. You know, he said in a speech, I intend with your help and with God's grace to continue, for my work has only just begun, and future generations shall have in their hands the guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century. Think about that for a moment. He's being unjustly imprisoned, and all he's thinking about is how can he preserve his words, his teachings, his message to ensure that future generations will have in their hands the guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century.
Yes, sir.
Says, I know and I only you two believe in time, but we shall wait 200 years if needs be to face our enemies through our posterity. He's making sure that he preserves the philosophy, his opinions, his teachings, so that future generations will have the black print. We don't call it blueprint, we call it the black print, the template for our liberation. Now, a man who has made that commitment and sacrifice for our liberation, we have a duty and a responsibility to defend his integrity even beyond the grave. The lies that have been told on him, the injustice that has been was meted out against him, the unjust record of his conviction must be challenged and must be corrected. And who else but us have that duty and that responsibility? Now, that does not absolve us, or that does not prevent us from doing the other work that we were called to do for the empowerment and liberation of our people. It is part of what we need to do. It's just one aspect of what we need to do. And if we can't do that, then we are not worth the sacrifice that the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, made for our freedom. Mama
Chenzilla, the same question to you. Are we engaging in vain symbolism and ceremony, pomp and pageantry, as Papa Garvey was often accused of engaging in? Or does this campaign have real lasting effect on the lives of our people in this time?
This will have long-lasting effects on our elders, our freedom fighters, the bourgeois, the lumpen proletariat, and definitely our children.
Yes, Mama.
We need to have something that is just as proactive, just as inviting from all of the whistles and busts that comes forth, because technology has made our entire African nation go into an under civilization building kind of construct. We are involved in so much consumerism that, yeah, maybe there might seem a lot of pomp and circumstance, but that's not the thrust of this movement. And I want to use some words that are not mine, because I want persons to hear from persons, especially since we're talking about this time of emancipation and brethren, you know, the Honorable Brother Leder being in Jamaica. And I want to come to that term repudiation. So persons that don't understand that, make sure you Google the word so you understand exactly what's being shared around this whole idea of rejecting a particular proposal or idea, or denial of the truth or the validity of something. Really clear for persons to get that, because we don't want it to be confused with repatriation, restitution, or reparations. We want persons to be real clear on what repudiation from the onset of this whole situation dealing with Garvey. So I'm going to use some words from the Honorable P.J. Patterson, who is a former Prime Minister of Jamaica. And during his tenure, that did introduce certain things of this nature. That could be why he didn't stay Prime Minister. I'm just saying, it could have had it. And now he's the director of the P.J. Patterson Center for Africa, Caribbean Advocacy, and definitely a statesman beyond shadow of the doubt. But I want to use his words that were shared in February around this exoneration of Garvey. As his denunciation of these evils intensified, as he raised funds to assist the victims of racial violence, as he started to publish the weekly Negro World newspaper, and dared to launch the African Communities League to become a business arm of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the white supremacists came to realize that his message and power of mobilization were repugnant to their evil designs. Garvey came to be known as the Black Moses. And this is coming from the former Jamaican PM, PJ, the Honorable PJ Patterson. And the reason I wanted to say that is because that's what makes it relevant now. We're not supposed to let any of our excellencies have a memory or a stain on their reputation that is not, that they did not earn, especially while we still honoring fools and evil ones that should be underneath the jail. They should have been executed for the evil that they've done to humanity, to all of humanity, not just us, but to all of humanity. So yes, this is very relevant. We're not supposed to let no stone remain unturned ever when it comes to holding up high our historical icons. Yes, he's a national hero in Jamaica, but he is a global hero to the earth. There are very few, and definitely not in the 20th century that can say they brought together millions of Africans. Of course, there's going to be dissension. So of course, there's going to be threat of debt, because that's what happened with humankind.
Yes, sir.
We still struggling with that to this day. It's kind of like now they call it the drive-by. They had drive-by back then too. Just was a little slower.
Yes, sir.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
So it's important that we see that this is very important now. We don't need to give any of these racists, I don't call them supremacists, because there's nothing supreme in white racism. I see it as terrorism of the highest order. I see it as even more engaging than the Ma'afa. Because see, the Ma'afa can be like equivalated to a hurricane. It kind of happened as seasonal, whatever, it's an institution, whatever. But the Maangamizi, no, that's like an intentional, institutionalized dismantling of our African humanity. So for me, and for those that we are responsible for guiding, right? And I say this as a grandmother, because I'm glad you said that first. Because all of the academic accolades and all of the other achievements, that's secondary to me being a mother, and a grandmother, and a revolutionary unapologetically. So when we speak of African Queen Mother warriors, and I calling out to all Miss Distrin, on that side.
Ashe.
They know I gonna call their names as we move forward. But really,
Ashe.
this is a movement that is imperative
Yes.
for us to be in the forefront of. And there's other layers to this.
Yes.
Because by exonerating Garvey and showing that respect that we have for our leaders, our children, our future generations go, oh wow, our parents, our grandparents stood up for our own, for one of our own, because we real quick to stand up for all of them there,
Yes.
all over the place,
Yes.
showing allegiance to people that aren't even worthy of a pledge,
Ashe.
much less a hand over your heart.
Yes, sir.
And it's time for us to rise up and remember that we exonerate Garvey.
Ashe.
The only thing that's not on that hashtag was that we said we exonerate Garvey first. You understand?
First
But
and foremost. That's
first
right,
and
Mama.
foremost.
That's right.
So give thanks for that.
We're gonna
Can I,
open
Mari,
to the
can I
one.
just say something, add something quickly?
Please, already very, very quickly, because we want to open the lines. Well, go ahead.
I hear that. Tendai Mari.
Tell that word.
Just on this question of symbolism, every culture has its symbolism, and symbolism has its place in every culture.
Yes, sir.
And it has significant spiritual and psychological value to a people.
Yes.
But this is symbolism with substance.
Right.
And the substance is about, as I said before, taking back the power to define.
Yes, sir.
Taking back the power to define
Yes, sir.
time, space, and circumstances.
Yes, sir.
Only when a people have that power or exercise the power to define can they also exercise the power to determine.
Right.
And so this step is a crucial step.
Right.
And the potential to mobilize African people and to inform African people through this campaign
Right.
is also part of the substance.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I want to also
that's powerful. That's powerful. Just to emphasize, only when the people take back the power to define will they take back the power to determine. Yeah, extremely important statement.
Absolutely. And we're not throwing away the value of symbolism.
No, not at all. Well, them say
we're embracing that as well.
That's right. Them say Elizabeth Jubilee, pure symbolism are going about the place around here, for the last year and a few months. You know what I'm saying? So we give thanks. In fact, sorry, I'm gonna come back to that. Let's open the lines.
Think about Jesus on the cross, Chakara.
Say again?
Think about Jesus on the cross.
100% symbolism.
The crucifix.
Yes.
Tena, my brothers and sisters, this is Africa Speaks with Alkeb-Lan on the Big G Galaxy, the only de-brainwashing station. Garvey lives. Why should we exonerate Marcus Mosiah Garvey? That's our subject matter today, brothers and sisters. Our special guests are none other than Brother Leader Mbandaka, Sister Chenzira Kaina, and we heard earlier from the President General Akili Nkrumah. In what ways was Marcus Garvey's trial a travesty of justice? Why have successive presidents failed to pardon him? What impact would a presidential pardon exoneration have? Has too much time passed for it to make any difference? Brothers and sisters, the lines are now open. 0203 289 6504. If you just want to greet our brothers and sisters, our guests this evening, Garveyites, brothers and sisters, hardcore Garveyites, and just connect with them and tell them what a powerful message that is resonated on the airwaves this evening. You can do so, brothers and sisters, on 0203 289 6504. If you want to know more about We Exonerate Garvey, what is that all about? What are you going to do on the 31st of Mosiah, brothers and sisters? Are you going to connect with the Garvey family, with the African world community to make this a reality, brothers and sisters? You can do so. You can connect with us on 0203 289 6504. Or you can text us, brothers and sisters, or WhatsApp us on 07 377 920 703. The lines are now open. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, kings and queens. Yes, indeed, the lines are open. And I do want to say that the 7th of Mosiah this year is the Mosiah opening ceremony. And our keynote address will be delivered by Brother Leader Mbandaka on... Okay, Mama, I've seen your message. On the subject of we exonerate Garvey. Yeah, Brother Leader will be ministering to us on that day at the Mosiah opening ceremonies, the 7th of Mosiah, at the Chestnuts Community Centre, in
St. Anne's Road.
St. Anne's Road in Tottenham, yeah. I'm coming. Yes, Chestnut Community Centre, 280 St. Anne's Road. That's N15 5BN, and we're starting at 1 p.m. Kings and Queens. All right, so do come through to the Mosiah opening ceremony. For more information, check out Alkebu-Lan.org/Mosiah, ALKEBULAN.org/Mosiah. For all information on the Mosiah opening ceremony.
Just to say, food and refreshments will be available, brothers and sisters.
100%.
And if you want to book a stall for this event, you can do so by calling 07908 814152. That's 07908 814152. The lines are open, brothers and sisters. This is Africa Speaks with Alkeb-Lan. If you just wanna connect with us and say Garvey lives, I'm glad we're there in Mosiah now, because this is the most powerful month, brothers and sisters, where the sun is at its most prodigious. Yeah, and you just want to phone up and say Garvey lives, brothers and sisters, you can do so on 0203 289 6504 or 07377 920 703. Tendai Mwari.
You may be at the Reparations Rebellion, Kings and Queens, and happen to be tuning in at the same time. I want to send some vibrations from Brixton, so feel free to do that also. We give thanks. And I understand that some of you may be having some issues tuning in via on the internet. So we're going to be making this available in other ways as well, that we can share this particular show, because a lot of information has been shared. So we'll if ones are having difficulties tuning in, we will make it available for playback at some point. At the same time, one thing I have to say is Mama Chenzira made reference to a lot of research that has been done in the last few decades in relation to the Papa Garvey case. One book, that I know goes into a lot of the research is a book by the name of Jailing a Rainbow. Yes, Jailing a Rainbow, and it's by the author's name. Is it Justin Hans? I'll tell you in a sec, Kings and Queens. Justin Hansford, Justin Hansford. If I've got time a little bit later on, I can read a snippet from that book, but he actually does go into the case quite significantly and break some of the issues down. And also, in the book Garvey and Garveyism, Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey actually goes into a significant analysis of the money and how they changed hands in the UNIA-ACL at that time. She knew because she was the secretary, all right, and how Papa Garvey never handled the money, so he couldn't have been guilty of any fraud because he never handled any money. No money passed through his personal hands, So I want to point that out. And finally, Brother Leader made mention of the fact that it was a trumped-up charge. J. Edgar Hoover, of COINTELPRO fame, is known to have suggested the using the UNIA to charge Marcus Garvey with something. No, in a memo to his operatives of the Bureau of Investigation, this is prior to the FBI now, the Bureau of Investigation, he said, we haven't been able to find anything on Marcus Garvey. However, he gives them an envelope and said, this might be the thing. This is in 2019. This is months after. 1919, sorry. This is just months after the UNIA-ACL had launched the Black Star Line in the first place. So long before Papa Garvey was convicted of anything, the agenda is documented. They were already on it and trying to find something against the Baba, the elder, the ancestor, and the organization in general. We have somebody on the line.
Let's bring in Tendai Mwari. Brother, I am Tendai Mwari, my brother.
Tendai Mwari, my brother.
Tendai Mwari.
Brother, I am.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
And he lives forever and ever and ever.
Brother, you're kind of low at the moment. I don't know if you can do anything for raise on the voice.
Right the phone, brethren.
All right. Well, we'll try a thing in the studio. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, no, just I say Garvey lives and him lives forever and ever.
Ever.
And you know, and I wanted to just bring to the point of the matter what you were just saying is that, yeah, he was framed. And you know, I know that still. Them frame him up to bring him down, and that can't stop nothing. And as soon as Jamaica get them backside together, so to speak, they must exonerate him too.
Did you say backside or backside, my brother?
Backside.
All right, okay.
He said rear end.
Yeah. Now I'm feeling like both it would be relevant though, the backside and the backside. But let's move on.
All right.
Well,
Let's move on.
We should put pressure upon them to front yourself and all about the globe. We should put pressure upon Jamaica now to say done with this foolishness here.
Yes, sir.
Give a thanks here, King.
Give
Yes.
thanks, brother. I am. Give
Blessed
thanks,
brother, I am.
Give thanks. I am.
Aye.
All right, we got another caller on the line.
We have on the text line. I don't know if our caller. Okay, I'm gonna try and take this one. I'm not too sure how we going to take this one. If we can do a quick little bit of science there.
Right, we got the 837 on the line. Go ahead.
Tell my brother Shakara, how are you?
I'm good, sir. Who's speaking, please?
That's
You're a colleague, brother
that's Kwame Obaji.
Go ahead,
Tenamoi,
brother
Kwame
Kwame.
Obaji.
How you doing, brother Mwani?
Tenamoi, my brother. Can you hear me
Brother
okay?
Leader, how you doing?
10-9 Wari, I'm richly blessed, my brother. Garvey lives.
Garvey
God
lives.
lives. Messiah lives.
Mosiah lives. Go ahead, brother Kwame.
Mosiah lives.
Yeah, I will go ahead. As far as I'm concerned, my colleagues, Baba Marcus Mosiah Garvey is innocent. We know who planted his downfall. Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, yeah, that Garvey uplifted African people and they were so envious of him. Garvey did a lot for African people, they were so envious of him. We know who planted his downfall. I can name them. W.B. Du Bois, 1. Aphid Randolph, 2. Roy Wilkins, 3. Chandler Owen, 4. Cyril Briggs, 5. These were the stooges who hated Garvey and were helping the Uncle Sam's system topple Garvey. But let me tell you this, as far as I'm concerned, in my eye, Marcus Garvey did a lot for African people, and we should always remember his name all the time.
Absolutely.
Give thanks, brother
thanks,
Kwame.
brother Kwame.
100%.
Brother Mwani, you take care of yourself as always.
You too, my brother. Tendai Mari. Tendai my
thanks.
brothers and sisters. 0203 289 6504. That's 0203 289 6504. That's the number to call, brothers and sisters. Ideally, we want you to WhatsApp on the line, on the WhatsApp line 07377 920 704, as opposed to calling in. We will take calls on that line.
Indeed.
But we would like a few messages there as well if you want to if you don't necessarily want to talk. 0203 289 6504 is the number to call.
Mama Chenzi, the brother leader, any responses to those calls whilst we await some more? Go ahead, Mama.
You know, it's interesting that from what I could hear, because there was a certain delay in the audio, one of the things that I really think it's important for us to navigate through is supporting all of the Mosiah Month initiatives, activities, events, programs that are happening on both sides of the Atlantic Pond, right?
That's right.
Because there's so much that's going on in the African continent, in the UK regions, throughout the Eurasian areas. There's a lot that's going on in Central and South America, and I needed to make a slight correction. My previous academic affiliation was with the Virgin Islands Caribbean Cultural Center. However, just due to the nature of some of the work that I do and live, retirement came a little earlier than I originally intended. Yeah,
Right.
Because it was important for us to be able to do this particular layer of work and to establish our own institutions.
Yes.
Because many times, and I say this for all of us, many of us have gone through that traditional academic journey in the Western sense. And the Western sense is not only on this side of the pond. I'm saying global Westernism, yeah? I'm speaking of that capitalist, imperialist type of academia that does not facilitate liberation, unification, and social governance that supports African sovereignty in its essentials, yeah? And that's part of the thing that tends to happen when we talk about Mosiah Month. You know, granted in California, because that's one of the places where, you know, a lot of this Black August and that vibrational shift really had a lot of its heights, and it spread throughout the rest of the nation because things, and I want to be specific, of the 48 contiguous. We don't call that mainland, right? We call it the 48 contiguous because America goes from the North Pole to the South Pole, yeah? And it's sometimes when persons think of America, they only think of the U.S. of A and the 48 contiguous in particular. They don't include Alaska and all of those indigenous people that are still demanding their freedom and their liberation to this day. Or the people in Hawaii that are still demanding their freedom and their liberation in terms of their cultural independence, their ancestral sovereignty. Because we could speak of the fact that the U.S. is still responsible for dethroning a reigning queen in that space we call Hawaii to try to make it a state. I mean, that's a whole other piece, and that's why during this month of Mosiah, we get an opportunity to speak truth to power from the 1st to the 31st. And again, the fact that we're initiating this with our brothers and sisters through this particular network. And I'm really highlighting that it's powerful for us to be able to have this type of exchange and sharing. As I mentioned earlier, following after this whole vibration of Pan-African women's organizations, Pan-African Women's Day, coming into, quote, World Indigenous Peoples Day on the 9th, South African Women's Day on the 9th, the fact that in California for more than 20 plus years, Sister Queen Mother Moya Mzuri Pambele of the All African People's Revolutionary Party and the All African Women's Revolutionary Union has been making sure that a Pan-African Women's Day celebration is hosted in the land of Africans, right in the middle of LA, and bringing in brethren and sistren from around the globe. And the fact that we're doing these Flag Day observances that Garvey put in place, the fact that we're highlighting his celebration of his Earthlight on the 17th everywhere in the world. So, you know, I mean, this is really important to kind of anchor that within this whole We Exonerate Garvey movement
100%.
And to facilitate that type of work and do it through a lens that is not only political, not only cultural, not only historical, not only socioeconomic, but it's grounded in African spirituality that is unapologetic.
Tendamari, Mama Chinzeli, Tendamari, Brother Leader Mbandaka. We are in the season of Mosiah, and many of our young people may not be versed on Papa Garvey. Why is it important for us to connect with our youth, and in what ways should we utilize to connect with our youth about the greatness of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey? Tenamar.
In the most powerful and wisdom words of one of our great freedom fighters, Baba Amilcar Cabral, children are the fruits of our labor and the principal reason for our fight. So that our children give us a window to the future. Without them, we have no future. And there is a battle for the minds and souls of our young people. If we don't fill their souls with the right content, the right spirit, if we don't fill their minds with the right knowledge and the right information, then the enemy, our oppressors, those who orchestrate the Ma'afa, the Maangamizi against African people, and have been doing so for hundreds of years, will win the battle for the minds and souls of our young people. And then we have to contemplate the words of our ancestors that taught us that if the children are not initiated into the village, they will burn it down just to feel its warmth. They will turn against us. They will laugh at the things that we hold most sacred and most dear. They will turn their noses up against it, and it will not be their fault. It will be our responsibility because we did not ensure that we won the battle for their minds and souls. That is one battle we cannot afford to lose.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, there is no future. We will win or lose our fight for liberation through our children, our young people. It is the youth that carries the physical battle to the enemy. The elders provide the wisdom, the direction, the guidance, the steer, but it's the youth that provide the muscle.
Yes, sir.
Right? The physical strength and agility to battle the enemy, to confront the enemy on the battlefield. And so we cannot, but as Baba Thomas Sankara teaches us, a soldier without ideological tutoring is a potential murderer.
Terrorist, I think he said, I think
terrorist murderer. You'll see different interpretations, I guess, because he said it in French. And people interpret it in different ways. But this is what we have to understand, beloved brothers and sisters. And so Papa Garvey provides the greatest source of knowledge and guidance and inspiration. As far as our liberation is concerned, we will not find a greater source. This is why we talk about the black print. Papa Garvey gave us the black print for our liberation. And so we must enlighten our children as to that black print. So that their thoughts and their actions will be determined by the black print. Tendai Moyari.
And Garvey lives. And
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives. I think there's
go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, there's a slightly later, I think. And Mama Chenzira, being a grandmother and hailing from the Virgin Islands, is that correct?
Well, I come through the Virgin Islands for now, but my family is in the French, Dutch, and Spanish-speaking Caribbean, in addition to the English.
Right.
Yeah, so this is like a true data of the Caribbean.
Indeed.
An African data. Yeah.
I just want to say St. Thomas, home of Edward Wilmot Blyden. And home of Hubert Harrison. Also,
Croix,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, the 3rd is the anniversary of the birth of his honorable Reverend Dr. Edward Wilmot Blyden.
Yes, I had the pleasure of visiting the nation that he passed into the ancestral realm in April, which is what is now called Sierra Leone. I wasn't able to do a pilgrimage to his shrine. To his resting place. I wanted to, but it wasn't quite possible. But that was an important point. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah, go ahead.
Tena Mary Queen Mother. So, as a grandmother, how do you find the youngsters of the Caribbean? Are they connecting with Papa Garvey? And to yourself, what ways should we be using to connect with the spirit and with the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey?
I'm very grateful for that inquiry, because that's a question that is to be guided to all of us and to all of our mothers, our fathers, our aunties, and our uncles. As a grandmother, these are the things that we teach to all of our grandchildren. My king man and I are to our children. This is what they know my father was a Garveyite in República Dominicana, and persons were like, wait a second, black people in the Dominican Republic, like, dog Garvey, like, yeah, you know, and persons had to catch on that this is something that by sharing these narratives, by offering them even just the quotations as part of the extra proverbial text that they're involved in, adding this in time in our storytelling, so that we're not just telling story, but we're actually giving them griot narratives. You understand what I'm saying? So they know that this is something. You know what my great grandmother used to tell me? Check no. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. You have to like bring it up in a way that is practical for them. We need to show them that the reason that things are happening like they're happening now is because of these types of things that happen to persons like Garvey. A lot of the youth throughout the Caribbean, most of them, they wear the red, black, and green, and many times they may not know all the songs and everything that goes to the flag. So it gives you an opportunity to have these teachable moments. It's an opportunity for us to use that inside of media. There was I really need to remember this brethren's name, and he was in one of the states in the South in the 48 contiguous, I want to say Atlanta, and he did a series of children's books on Marcus Garvey, and he did them in English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And I want to, and I'm going to find that text to send to you,
because we would love to know.
It was a wonderful, like a hardcover publication. And again, you know, only through certain circles did people get a chance to know about these publications. 100%. But there's so many. There's books that are coming forward, videos that are coming. You know, it's not just Akili and me. You know, it's Akili and me, yes. But there's also these other animations that sisters and brothers are beginning to use to reach our children. Because that's what I show my children, to encourage them to show their children, my now grandchildren, and even the great-grandchildren that are forthcoming. I wanted to come back to that question from another angle as well, not just as an intellectual, but as an organizer. That's why it's important for us to look at the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, and not just that first volume. We have to do the research and look for the second and the third volume that people didn't want put in public domain, because that's where we start to see what were the practical elements. It wasn't just a bunch of theory. It was a lot of what are you gonna build? What businesses give thanks? See the book.
The good book.
Right. This is important for persons to have. This is like a required reading in your family collection.
Certainly.
Right. It's important to look at Garvey and Garveyism so that persons can navigate again from his work, what was done while he was against. I really give thanks for you. I'm so grateful. Because
go ahead, brother leader. For those,
sorry to interrupt.
For those listening,
this is volume 3.
And this is important. So persons see that there were these volumes of literature that exist. This is the time where everybody talks about what's digitized. Some of the books, like even the course in African philosophy that people say they can't get a copy of, we have copies that are available online. And when we were using it, as we are encouraging persons, you say you're a Garveyite, you say you're in the UNIA-ACL, whichever element, then that means, according to any constitution you look at, you had to study this course in African philosophy. And not look at this course in the way it was written for the 20s and the 30s, but then to bring it into 21st century application.
That's it.
And that way, we have things to do and engage with our children. We have groups like Mass Emphasis doing theater in DC. Thank you very much. He has everything. I love it. It's like you're I don't even need a PowerPoint. I just need to give thanks. You know, it's important that persons know, like, and I give credence to Brother Obi Egbuna, because what he's doing with children
is massive work.
Theater is a powerful work, because it's doing all of this that we're speaking of in terms of bringing to life, whether it's creating Chautauqua, monologues, outright plays with our children speaking in multiple languages. Learning how to express themselves and to get an awareness and to no longer be under the talons of these capitalists. I'm very clear on that. It's not just white people. It's the capitalist imperialist terrorism that is purported by Eurasians and even these Negro peons that think that it's for their benefit.
That's right.
And it allows for us to use these tools from Garvey's phenomenal. Garvey was a griot.
Yes, sir.
Garvey was able to speak like for hours extemporaneously. Because of the practice. He was an elocutionist. He had oratorical mastery because he actually studied. And by doing that with our children, and encouraging them, and I tell them, I have no problem. You want to dance, play drums, sing, whatever, I got you. I want you to get the content and the context. Don't just tell me you're going to do this for Kwanzaa between December 26th and January 1st, and the rest of the year you're like oblivious to everything. This is like 365, 24/7. All about the way that people can say they Coca-Cola, all them craziness stuff, all of them video games. Where's the Garvey video game? Come on. How about that,
Mama?
I'm
Come on. You see, go ahead. Finish your.
What I do with my children.
I see it.
My children, my children will tell people to this day, and they're grown adults.
Yes.
Our parents didn't want us playing no video game, and I said, when you can play video games.
Yes.
This is why several of them are engineers.
Yes.
Create the game.
Yes.
Present it to Baba and I, and then maybe you're going to get that Atari, whatever it's called,
100%.
whatever Sony, whatever it is. So that's why they had a whole other layer of motivation, because they want to, Mommy, we're going to show you how we have black people in our characterization. We're going to show you how we have black heroes in our characterization.
100%.
So I'm saying this to support the sisters and brethren who may not know what to offer our children. And some of these links, I'm dropping them here in the chat, but I will also just send them to you.
Yes, sir.
Please,
send Shakara that we can have some options, because there's a lot of brothers and sisters around the globe creating technology and video games and educational materials and books, and not just books, but literature that's living, films and so forth, to encourage our youth to be on the forefront of this next layer of. Once we get through this, we exonerate Garvey. We know we talk about African independence every August 31st. We got to deal with us, trick the fourth, trick whatever, 17, whatever. That's not as important as our African independence. We have to decree, not even declare, because declarations can be temporal, but we have to have like a decree of our African sovereignty, with power, with land, with our cultural heritage and Ada, with our property up in these contemporary times, and with no apology, making sure we could deal with food sovereignty. You can't deal with food sovereignty if you don't understand sovereignty. You can't deal with no kind of liberation, whatever, if you still fighting over word, sound, power. That should not be creating divisiveness between us. And I say this, and I say it to my brothers first and strongly, right? When you say you'd like African queen mothers to roll like African queen mothers, and we the empress and so on, this and that, when we come rolling like empresses and African queen mother,
you better handle it.
Don't be an obstacle.
All right, that's right.
Okay, I just saying.
No, you're right, Mama. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Sometimes we just come and ready to do our work because we have to do our work. We are the womb carriers of the earth. So that's how we moving. And I ain't talking about the play people and the showboat people. And we had a really nice word. But what was that real pomp and circumstance? There was another term that you used.
Pomp and pageantry.
It's not. Thank you. It's not just the pageantry, even though we could do that exceptionally well.
Beautifully,
talk about those that do the work and live this work 24/7, every squinet of this day. You understand? Shot it in a second, because this is what time it is.
That's what I'm saying.
We say we exonerate Garvey, we're incorporating all of that.
So
Mama, 0203 sorry, 0203 289 6504 is the number to call, brothers and sisters. This is Africa Speaks with Alkeb-Lan. We're blessed to have some we got some VIPs here, brothers and sisters, and we're blessed to have the spiritual leader of the Alkeb-Lan Revivalist Movement, brother leader Mbandaka, also Sister Chenzira Kaina, and President General Akili Nkrumah earlier on, brothers and sisters. And the subject matter is why should we exonerate Marcus Garvey? This is about the exoneration of Marcus Garvey on the 31st of this month, the month of Mosiah. Big things are going.
Big things are going.
Big things are going, brothers and sisters.
Yes, sir.
And we must all connect in the spirit of we exonerate Garvey. That's what we're going to be doing on the 31st. So we look forward to connecting with our brothers and sisters from the UNIA
ACL RC 2020.
RC 2020 who are going to take the lead. And brothers and sisters, you know, we're going to follow that lead.
100%. Tell me, Mama, I love what you just said in terms of getting true to the youths, because you centered it on the youths that are in the movement, yeah? And I think that's often a forgotten element of the thing. Often we talk about the masses of our youths and forget that. And you know what, just to say, my son, who you share a name with, he came in because I had all of my Garvey books stacked in the pile. And he looked at one and he said, Amy Jakes Garvey. And he had, it was actually Amy Ashwood Garvey, right? But he knows Amy Jakes Garvey, and his mother was saying to me that he's been on an Amy Jakes Garvey vibes, yeah? He keeps calling her name and he knows how to identify her, so he just got it mixed up at that moment in time. But that was powerful, and he knows, you know, the image of Papa Garvey and so on and so forth. And it's so important. When you say we've got to read the thing, yeah, and study the thing. We don't read the thing, study the thing, because Papa Garvey was a supreme visionary, but through the vehicle of the UNIA-ACL, they were master organizers, and I think people studying the UNIA-ACL at its height, yeah, between 1990 and say 1925 is one thing. But when you study what they had to do afterwards, after Papa Garvey's imprisonment and deportation, and the various different challenges that they had to overcome to continue to organize, yeah, and the successes that they had, for example, to have an international convention in the 1920s in Jamaica, and 1930s, yeah, in Canada, and so on and so forth, right? What they had to do, people were not as connected to that history as we should be. And so there's a lot of information in terms of our organizing right now, yeah, that we're missing, right? That there's a lot of lessons that we're not applying as it stands right now. And so my question, as we approach the close of our show today, yeah, to both Brother Leader and Mama Chenzida, is in relation to, and you've kind of touched on it already, but in relation to the revival of universal African nationalism as a functional vehicle towards our liberation, understanding that Papa Garvey was a visionary, but he concretized, and they concretized that vision in so many ways. The only reason why we celebrate Papa Garvey, you know, is not because he gave us the vision, but because he concretized the vision to a significant degree. Yes? And continue to do so in the face of innumerable challenges. And I'm saying that I want to emphasize the UNIA-ACL, because enough times we call the name Marcus Garvey without calling the UNIA-ACL, right? And we need to correct that, yeah? Because so many ancestors sacrificed for this thing, yeah? So what do we need to do? And what should we be focusing on now, yes, to revive that specific legacy? I'm talking about universal African nationalism, Garveyism. What should we be focusing on? What should we as the Garveyites be organizing around very specifically in order to concretize the vision and make it relevant in the minds of our people at large, not just our youth, but our people at large in general? And what are the avenues, the opportunities that we need to be taking advantage of in this dispensation of time towards this vision of, what's it called? We shall wait patiently for 200 years if need be to face our enemies for our posterity.
We don't have time to argue. So one of the things we need to focus on is the same food, clothing, shelter that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And I like to concretize that to working on security and safety of our women, our children, our men, our families, our communities.
Right.
Security is essential.
Right.
security in where we live, the land that we have, putting our resources together instead of buying the $2,000 cell phone, maybe get a $1,000 cell phone and put the other $1,000 in that susu, where we begin to purchase and secure land in various parts of the earth. All this land that has been promised to in different parts of the earth to the UNIA-ACLs, plural, we need to facilitate that. And I say that publicly, and I know I'm saying it with the full support of PG Akili, because this has been something he has been putting forth for a while, right? We have to have resources. We cannot continue in this 24/7 of revolutionary work and universal African fundamentalism on a part-time schedule with zero funding.
Yes, Mama.
We have to have socioeconomic resources that are compiling together seriously. So if people want to do it with the Bitcoin and it works for you, ashe. If you want to do it with gold and platinum, ashe. We cannot be external to what's happening inside of the African continent, where resources are coming up in large numbers and we are not involved, and we are not bringing our skills, talents, and expertise. Because I'm going to say it again as a grandmother and a mother. My children has asked this saying, Mommy, we watching you do this all your life. Where the wealth there? Where the land there? Which part of Africa you done repatriate to that you actually have like ownership, participatory? I'm not begging the AU for nothing.
That's
I need that to come clear. That's like a serious piece. So land, security, agriculture. Notice the things that we're speaking of. We can't do this work if we can't feed ourselves. And we can't do this work if we got brothers and sisters that are the ones that are really doing this work seriously, and they worrying about where they're going to rest their head. And they worrying about how they're going to feed their family. And we got to worry about people being incarcerated unlawfully. We have to have those things in order. And that has to be part of our priority. When we say we exonerate Garvey, we're saying we exonerate Garvey because we actually respect and honor the fact that this brother, we respect and honor that this brother, this right excellency brethren, risked his life for us to deal with food, clothing, shelter, security, and to have the resources to be in our places of power and authority, and to decree that like no. Like no.
Ashe.
Okay.
I hope that's the short version.
No, it is.
Much more Hotep.
Hotep.
Queen Mother, we're gonna have to we're gonna have to leave it there in terms of we're gonna close. Before we close, we're gonna come to Brother Leader Mbandaka for your closing comments, Brother Leader, and then we're going to read in our challenges, let's say, earlier on in the day, we should have read our daily affirmation, and we're going to be reading that shortly, and also the children's memory verse.
Sure.
But before we do that, I'm going to hand over to Brother Leader Mbandaka. Tendai Brother Leader. And I want
Tendai I say, Rumbidzo Kunamwari, Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. To the God of Africa be the glory for our beloved Queen Mother. Sorry, I need to do something here.
Okay.
Can I turn it back?
All right. Well, while you...
Yeah, I'm okay now. I'm okay now. Yeah, for our beloved Queen Mother, Sister Shinzira, for your powerful words of guidance and inspiration that you have delivered so profoundly and so dynamically to us this evening. Beloved brothers and sisters, when Papa Garvey was criminalized and incarcerated, it really wasn't just Papa Garvey that they were after.
That's right.
It was us. It was us. It was our liberation that was criminalized and incarcerated. That was the idea. beloved brothers and sisters. And so we can do no less going forward than to organize our people around studying the man, the vision, the plan. We have to know the man, the character of the man, so that we can imbibe the best of the spirit and the character of the man in ourselves. We have to know the vision. We have to understand what the man's vision was, and then the plan that he developed to fulfill the vision, to concretize the vision. He followed it up with a plan. And that plan had, first and foremost, a central organizing body. That plan was based on nationhood. What? Firstly, race first. Nationhood.
Word.
Self-reliance. Those fundamental principles. And African spiritual orthodoxy. Don't leave that out. Seeing ourselves in the divine and the divine in ourselves. And institution building, starting with self-governance, organizing a central body, a central governing body, and then from that central governing body, building the institutions that addresses our economic needs, our cultural needs, our spiritual needs, our educational needs, our scientific and technological needs. All of that was part and parcel of how the UNIA-ACL organized itself. But there was a central organizing body, and the vision was nation building. The vision was nationhood. We have to put that back on the agenda. Papa John Henry Clark says, whatever we do in the name of liberation, if it does not include nation building, we are wasting our time. He says people rise and fall in the context of institutions. People never rise any other way. They never fall for any other reason.
Sure.
So we have to, and of course, the ultimate expression of that central organizing, that self-governance governing principle, was in the provisional government of the African people of the world that was established at the end of the Universal Convention of the African people of the world in 1920. So this is what we have to do wherever we are. Papa Garvey said, wherever we are in the world, we must organize ourselves as a nation. So wherever we find ourselves, we must organize our system of government. A system of government. And then from that central system, that central organizing system, we develop the institutions that are going to systematically address our needs. I'd just like to contextualize it in those terms, because we're at the end of the program, and I know we need to move forward. So I close, as I always do, in the words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey: unite, organize now or perish. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Rumbidzo kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, brother leader. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.